Oh, that's pretty funny. Actually, I didn't even plan on it. But this is actually for you, and you know who you are. But because I think there's more people just like you, I can name myself in that group, having spent many moments in the grip of panic. And I told you I would make this for you because, you know, when you're in your panic, you're not able to really track what it is that I'm saying. So I'm gonna make this for you. But I love this analogy. So let's do it again. How many of us, yourself included, spend the day, here's the water line, and you spend your day right here. And you're like, I'm drowning. And when you're drowning, well, when you're drowning, you can't breathe, you're underwater, you're dying, right? And this sucks. Your body's like going into this, your body starts to take over. That's what this panic attack feels like. Your body is taking over because something has got to end. So it feels, again, well, like you're underwater. And what I've noticed is that much of the time when you're underwater, you don't know how far underwater. You think you're maybe 20 feet underwater. But with some of these daily practices, and I'm going to go over one today, that with practice, with repetition, you might notice that your day-to-day life and experience of that panic of being underwater, whether it's anxiety, overwhelm, whether you can name the reasons why you're losing your shit or not. But this is what we want your life to look like. You're here, and then a couple days later, you're here. I have a pretty bald head. It's not pretty. Here, I bet in 10 years, I'm going to have an even bigger those things. That's either a cute freckle or it's a sunline. Okay. So anyway, back to the story. You're here, then you're here, then you're here. Oh, there's some air, right? And then all of a sudden, you have found a way to use the tools that you have, which really are your focus. That's kind of it. What you actually have as a tool for your life. When you focus, well, when you focus on something, let's play it right here. You're looking at me and I'm looking at you. You're looking at me, and so you're focusing, right? So as you're sitting there or you're standing there, recognize that you're focusing. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Recognize that you're focusing. The recognition of the focusing, letting yourself focus and then become aware of your focus. Sounds pretty simple. But if you actually do it, it's the most interesting thing that you have going. If you find yourself like, what is this guy talking about? You're not doing it. You're still listening to one of the three brain defilements, mind defilements, that's causing all the trouble in your life. One is delusion, one is greed, one is aversion. Delusion, greed, aversion. Those are the three defilements that run your life when you are not aware. So if you just were like, awareness, what? Acknowledgement, what? What's he talking about? That's aversion. That's your aversion coming up. Aversion is moving away from. Greed is moving toward. And delusion is another word for confusion. And so why would this happen? I'm going to bring my awareness back to looking at you again, because awareness comes and it goes. there's always focus happening, but there's not always awareness on where you're focusing. So this is your practice. This is the body of a meditative practice, is bringing your awareness to your focus. So you can move your focus wherever you want to, but that's not going to make your awareness go there. So one of the easiest ways to practice with very little effort throughout the day, because that's what you want. You don't want to exhaust yourself. You don't want to burden yourself with another thing that you've got to do. Anybody else feeling like burdened with a huge to-do list you've got to get done, and you don't need one more thing? Like, especially if you're panicky and overwhelmed, like doing another thing is about the last thing you've got time for. Okay. Now, what's coming to me now is that when you're in the middle of that panic, bringing your awareness to it seems like it would be the wrong thing to do. It feels like shit. It's like it's gripping your stomach. It might be making you nauseous. It's bringing your awareness to the tension that's everywhere in your body, and that highlights the hurt and highlights the pain that you're in, and can easily feel like it's going to turn into suffering, right? If you could distract yourself, which is really putting your focus somewhere else and sending your awareness there, right? So you're still playing with your awareness. And since you're still playing with your awareness, we want to acknowledge that by putting your awareness and focus on certain parts of your experience, it will make things worse. It'll make things worse. And that's why I'm not a big fan of just suggesting people belly breathe, or just bringing breath into specific areas and trying to control it. Because if you do that, and you have trauma or pain or aversion or gripping happening in that area, you're going to turn the volume up on that, which is going to magnify it and make it grow. I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I want to make it grow. So what we want to do is use our focus. I'm going to use my focus and my awareness, because those are two different things. Like, I'm focusing on you right now, and that now I'm going to try to bring my awareness to it. And so what am I aware of? That would be it. I'm aware of my finger. I'm aware of the back of my hand, the color of my sweater. I can see my nose. I can see my nose here, but I can also see it here. I can see the orbitals, which are these parts here. I can see those. So this is how, when I bring my awareness, it's almost like another eye that's looking around inside of this container of focus. So the focus is on you. But then when I take it into the periphery, what else am I aware of in the room? Okay. These are some options, and we'll talk more about this in future, whatever these things are, recordings. Now, you may notice that I take pauses when I'm talking, like that one there. So a lot of what I'm aware of is you, but also the sensation of my balance, where my breath is going. Is it moving up? Is it moving up my spine? Relaxing my cheekbones. So this is one of the things that I do throughout the day to continually be softening the parts of me that, if left for too long without attention, might start to go rigid and tense. And those would be the parts of my body, all right? And when your body is left too long without attention, as in you go too long in your head planning, too long in your head doing, too long in your head worrying, your body, if you look at it like a pet, I like to look at my body like a pet, because I don't see myself as my body, right? When I woke up in bed when I was 5 years old and I was looking out, it's the same exact me that I am now. And it's going to be the same exact me that I'll be when I'm 85. But all three of those time frames had a completely different body. So I look at this, whether you want to call it spirit or a consciousness or bubble of me, whatever, that's a different aspect of my experience than my body is. So it works to imagine or observe, let's say, that I'm a couple things. One is pure consciousness, witnessing this experience that's happening out there, that's happening in here. It's just the consciousness that's me, that's always been me and always will be me. That's witnessing. And then everything else is what is witnessed, right? My body, the outside world, you, my hearing, all the senses. So there's what is witnessed, and that is flow and light and sunshine and storms and heaven and hell. All the aspects of reality that my witness, which doesn't get to really partake in any of it because its full-time job is to observe. Bringing that witness's attention to my focus, and then depending on where I aim the focus, outside, inside, when the awareness just softly comes into where it is that I'm focusing and where it is that you're focusing, things start to change. And this is one of those things that they noticed in quantum physics. When the observer rests their awareness, the whole thing changes, right? And this is some of the idea behind double-blind, placebo-controlled trials, is that they want to control where awareness goes. Because when awareness knows where to look, stuff is going to change. And this is great when you know how to use it. And so let's now zoom in on what you're going to do in your panicked state, for instance. We'll have other tools. This isn't the end all, but here's one that you can use. Okay, so let's look at the big nerve called the vagus nerve, and we're going to really simplify this. But it's simple and it's very profound, and you can do it all yourself to help shift your state with your one tool, which is your focus, and watching where your focus is, bringing your awareness to where your focus is. And just awareness, it doesn't take any effort at all, right? It doesn't take any effort at all. In the morning when you open your eyes, there is awareness. Doesn't take any effort. If you're using effort, if you're trying to control it, you're doing something wrong. Okay. So that stress response, the panic response in your body, in my body, can really be altered and changed and reduced in severity by this nerve called the vagus nerve. And that comes down from your brain, and it comes down all the way. I'm going to bring this down here, all the way down to like down in here. Okay. We're going to keep it simple. Those of you who are doctors and anatomists, and bear with me. All right. Because the goal isn't to have you become a vagus anatomist. The goal is for you to learn some strategies to help you deal with the overwhelm in life. Okay. So, and here's where we're going to depart. And this is actually a breathing technique that I learned in some of my previous training years ago. And I still use it every day as part of my self-assessment and self-scanning, and kind of the way of like tending to my own pet that I consider my body, that I've been given this body as a pet to take care of for 80, 100 years, something like this. So I do my things to try to take care of it. So it feels peaceful and loving and included and as much of the time as possible, but it still gets stressed out. When it's stressed out, it is not happy, it's panicky. So how do we then shift from that hard state into a more easy, less painful, less state, a state of less suffering, if you will? Vagus nerve is one of the most powerful nerves with the ability to start to shift your body out of that panicky fight, flight, or freeze state. Many of you have heard of that. So let's look at the vagus nerve as having 3 branches that you can pay attention to. So there's one here. Here's your heart. So let's put our hand on not in front of the heart, but up above the heart. Okay. So my thumbs, there's a little notch right here. I'm just going to kind of rest my thumbs there. Now I'm putting my focus there. And part of what's helping me put my focus there are my hands. Because my hands take up huge real estate in my brain, all the sensors in my hands. So I'm going to rest them both here. And then I'm going to bring my awareness to just that part of my body, my lungs and my breather. And I notice that the breathing, if I just, with no effort at all, I can't highlight it enough. No effort at all. We want to pretend that the breath is like a little pet and you're holding the leash and you're following it. You are not dragging your pet. You are not forcing your breath. We really, this is where the surrender, this is the faith thing. This is really crossing our fingers and hoping that the design that we are born into, that this body has some built-in capacities to self-regulate tension and stress and overwhelm and panic. And one of the key points is it does not require force. It does not require force of will, but it requires observing and bringing our awareness. Okay. Took me a long time to get this. Being a boy that likes to play with things, to build things and to break things down, both of which require us, I don't know, doing stuff, using effort. Okay, so I'm here. I'm just paying attention, bringing my awareness under my hands. When I just bring my awareness under my hands, I watch to see, what does the breath do? Does it want to yawn there? And if so, I go with it. I'll go with the yawn. Oh. It might not move at all. You might notice with your awareness there, it's just a blank vacancy, and that's okay. That is okay. You don't want to change it, because that's one of the things we're watching for. Is it not doing anything? Is there nothing happening in there? Is there nausea happening in there? Is there hope? Is there ease and flow and breath happening in there? All of those things. That's what we're watching for, is what is happening in this room right here, right now, when I just bring my awareness in there. It's just like going to a party and sticking your eyes in. You don't want to alert anybody that you're there. You're just looking, okay? That's key. Now, the next position. Ribs come together in this little bony spot here. I'm going to put my hands right over the bony spot. Okay. Same thing with my awareness here. I'm noticing maybe emotion there. What's happening with my face? Do I feel blood? Do I feel blood rushing? Is there an overall body emotional response? Do I have flashes? Mind flashes, thoughts? What is the breath doing? Is it coming under my hands there? Is it trying to skip there altogether and go somewhere else, like down to the belly? We're just inviting the breath to just come under your hands. Notice if you're bringing some belief or practice from prior skill sets that you've developed where you're trying to no, I'm going to breathe into my belly because I know that's right. We're just going to suspend that belief for a bit, okay? Because what we're doing right now is we're looking at 3 branches of the vagus nerve. This one, and then the third one is down at the belly button here. And the why, for those of you who've got some breath work experience or stress or trauma work experience, is these 3 branches, the vagus nerve isn't, let's look at the vagus nerve, these 3 branches, like 3 different radios, okay? 3 different radios playing 3 different songs, not like one vagus nerve song the whole time, but 3 different ones. This is key. Highlight, quote, bold, circle, period, exclamation point. This is key. 3 different songs. One of those is going to be the most pleasant, the easiest, maybe the most at home feeling. And then one of them, because you have 2 others now, one of them is going to be the least. Maybe there's some nausea there. Maybe there's like the breath is like, I'm not going there at all. Maybe you've got some emotion there that's like not pleasant. And it's okay to have a dark emotion. I mean, it's okay to have a dark emotion, especially if you feel like that's authentically me. Like if I am authentically angry and and my breath is going in there, like I am fully angry, that would be me being able to access that area and be feeling most at home. But if there's anger there and I'm not okay with it, I'm not comfortable with it, I'm resisting it, and it doesn't feel safe for me to breathe there, we're gonna note that that's the area that isn't my favorite one now. And I say now because they change throughout the day, and they change every single day. Every single time you do this exercise, if you're doing it by putting your focus here and here and here, and every time you put your focus there, you bring your awareness by watching. Remember, peeking into the room to see what's happening. And you don't want to be, if you're trying to bring the breath there, if you're trying to force something, that's you like getting yourself into the room and changing something. You don't want to do that. We just want to bring your awareness, noticing what happens with the breath when you bring your awareness to that spot. So we have breath 1, breath 2, breath 3, position 1, 2, and 3. And you've chosen one, you've observed, you become aware of one that feels the most at home, the most compelling, the one that you want to come back to, the one that you want to hang out with. And that's the one that you're going to come back to and hang out with. Okay, so say, for instance, this is the spot that I felt most at home with. And this is the spot position, the second one, that I didn't like so much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to come back up to position 1, and I'm going to breathe twice. I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to bring my awareness here, and I'm going to recognize if I'm thinking. And if I'm recognizing if I'm thinking, as soon as because oftentimes we'll go to sleep, and in that thought, it'll be very seductive. Our thinker and our movie maker up here is very seductive at pulling us off into a story. When that happens, recognize you're in the story and bring your awareness back to here. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to finish the story. You don't have to fix the problem. If it's something you really critical you want to figure out, put it in a little Tupperware thought bowl and put it right here. It works, actually. Put it right here and tell it you will come back and attend to it later. Then bring your awareness back here. So you're going to have 2 breaths here. And then 1 breath in the spot that didn't feel very good. And then immediately come back up to the spot that does. You would be amazed at how many people, healers included, want to send healing energy to the toxic part. They want to stay there and breathe into it, shove and fire hose love and acceptance and compassion and curiosity and ease into the area that doesn't feel okay. And it makes sense in that logical way, but it doesn't work that way in the way we're designed. Because it's our mind trying to fix something that we think shouldn't feel that way. And In that decision is when we become violent with ourselves, telling this part of us that we shouldn't feel this way and we should feel a different way. That's where violence starts in your life. Whenever you feel something that you decide shouldn't be that way, and whenever you employ some other technique to get that to change, to tell it to change, that's violence. It's very humbling if you're willing to observe how you treat yourself when your body is in a panic. So then again, if you notice that, in the noticing that that's what you do in bringing your awareness and getting the insight that, oh my gosh, that's what I do, that insight is your healing. The healing is delivered in the insight that came when you were using your awareness to observe how you feel and what you're doing about it. You don't have to go and do a whole bunch of other things, right? That if you got the insight, you observed it, you were able to control enough of the parts of your information that allowed the insight to spontaneously reveal itself, because you cannot will insight to happen. It is always spontaneous. And then it doesn't stick around, but the lesson does stick around. So you can use that lesson to realize, oh, I haven't been as compassionate as I have the opportunity to be now with myself. So again, because I go off on these little tangents to try to catch all of us that are falling off into our subconscious patterns that keep us stuck. We'll go back to the outline of the exercise again. It's the vagus nerve. There are 3 branches, one up here, one down here, one at the belly button. Up here above the heart is here, so we want to be above the heart, like one hand above the heart. That's the first position. The second one is right in here, right? The fleshy part of my diaphragm is up here, and the rib sternum is up here. So the little bony thing is right down in here. I'm going to use both my hands. Bring my focus there. Just really watch with my awareness. How do I feel? How do I feel? Not what do I think? Because what we are and what you are and what I are, I'm a feeling being who happens to think, but I'm a feeling being. Okay, so if we're not going to try to force this to change, what are we doing, right? And I mentioned that we're not going to try to change something. We're not going to try to force breath in there or send some healing juju in there, pull some darkness out of there. Because what if the process is exactly what needs to happen? What if your food digestion works just fine? You stick it in the mouth and then it works its way all the way down. And what if your spiritual digestion, your mental and emotional digestion works the exact same way, just in the opposite direction? It's from the bottom and it works its way all the way up and out. Well, if that's the way it goes, what it's going to look like is as soon as you become quiet and this stuff starts to come up and out, you're going to have some dark thoughts. You might very well, in the super ego, I guess, the internal critic, you start to see all the stuff in there that's like, oh, I don't like this. And this is why I hear people, when I ask, like, do you meditate? And many say, I do, but I have a walking meditation. I have a dancing meditation. And I'm a fan of movement-based meditations as well. And they are fundamentally different than sitting in stillness with your awareness just on the experience of the body when it is just in rest. It's a different experience. Okay. So you'll do 2 breaths into the area that feels most at home. And if you're on a really sick or panicky day, you're not going to have a place that's most at home, but you'll have a place, you might, but it may be more likely that you have a place that's just least painful, least nauseous. And you're going to let the awareness just magnify what's happening here. And then after 2 breaths, you're going to move your hands to the area that wasn't as compelling, maybe even downright nauseous. And you're going to do 1 breath. Then you're going to bring your hands back up to the spot that was more compelling, more at home. And you'll do 2 breaths, so twice as much time you're spending. Twice as much time you're spending. And then you'll come back and you'll do 1 breath. And if it's not a complete breath, if you mess something up, don't stick around to take another full breath, because that's your brain trying to be like, oh no, we can fix something. Your brain is pretty sneaky about thinking it can fix something. Remember in quantum physics, what I mentioned a few minutes ago, quantum physics, when awareness sits in a place, stuff starts to change. So what you're using is the power of your awareness, in the present moment experience. And you're shining it in one spot, then you're shining it in another spot, and you are going to become aware of just of what's happening. As you're moving your awareness between those 2 spots, the mind and the heart and the body and the innate intelligence perceives the contrast between the 2 areas, perceives the duality, and starts to integrate them. It feels the spot that is feeling disconnected and isolated and lonely and in pain, nauseous. And it will start the healing process there. And you were using your focus and awareness to highlight for your mind where specifically that's happening. And you're basically just being a bag boy at the grocery store, just taking the bit, sticking the bag and handing it over. You're not doing, and I don't think I like that analogy. I'm not going to use it again, but you were here to hear it the one and only time I have used it. So as you do that, and you do it every day, you might not notice anything after you do it once. Or it might be very profound. For some people, it is quite profound. If you do it multiple times a day, you practice playing effortlessly with your awareness in a very specific way that is anatomically and scientifically informed. And it's trauma informed, is what they call it now. You'll notice that your body and your nervous system shifts your ability to be present, shifts your ability to be compassionate and gentle. You're building those qualities in yourself with absolutely no effort. And just like when you learned how to ride a bike, it really didn't take any effort. The effort was in all of the resistance, but the actual learning and the balance was spontaneous. The learning of the nervous system to play with this thing was spontaneous. And that's what we want to do. We want to really learn how to dialogue and build this relationship of softness and gentleness and receiving. And receiving is a big word there. Maybe another one that I would highlight and underscore is when I put my awareness somewhere, what am I receiving? And if you really think about what you do, if you're a guy and you're a golfer, if you're a woman, you're a golfer, and you're, in the 30 seconds before you take that swing, what are you doing? Go through that step, the stepwise process. You're receiving. You're putting yourself in a position to receive the world with the fewest number of distortions. Because the more distortions, the further away from the hole the ball is going to go. So you want to receive, and then your goal is, can I drop into flow state and have very little effort to be able to connect point A to point B? I'm assuming it's similar with like crochet. I'm assuming it's similar with sewing. I know it's similar with drumming with others, improvising music, theater. But this is a really good foundational practice because you do it when you're still. And when you're still, there's no moving reality, which you would get if you're riding a bike or running or walking. There's no extraneous motion, walking or running or riding a bike or something like that, that also takes some of your awareness and some of your attention. And I get the compulsion to do that because it's kind of like sinking yourself down into hot water. If you're doing something else like walking or jogging, you can keep a regular conveyor belt of bliss coming into your body, which means you're not going to feel the full intensity of, could be shame or guilt or grief or rage. Those things can be pretty overwhelming, and you want ways sometimes to mitigate the intensity of what you really are feeling in there. But to the degree you can step into the courage of really getting still with yourself and just feeling and seeing what happens if you follow the design of the organism that you've been given, the ability for you to help this body change its state from a panicky state to a state where you're, I don't want to just get into that like zenned out on top of the thing, because you know what, that's kind of a boring life. Because when I have like integrated myself, and I don't have all that energy going to panic, what happens? I can get excited, I can get thrilled, I can get passionate, I can rageful, I can feel all of my emotions, I can dance to the music and get muddy, I can go do all the things that I do and be really intense about it because I have lots of energy. And I can flip the switch on and off. The switch of what state I'm in. And for those of us who've had trauma, which I'm going to say many of us have, and for those of you who haven't, you are a relational being. Not only are you a solo being, but you're also at the same time a relational being, which means your sense of self is dependent on your place in the cultural movement, which means you've been embedded, you've been surrounded, like you've been immersed in thought processes being utilized by others who have had a traumatic past, meaning there's a lot of defense and there's a lot of unintended violence towards themselves. And if it's towards themselves, it's definitely going to be towards others too. So it'll come across as maybe passive violence, but you've been in it. So you're kind of secondarily traumatized, however you can say it. Yes, so I'm going to make some more of these. But this is a good one to practice every day, I would say. And I would do it for a minimum of 20 minutes. I would take your phone, and what I do is I take my phone and I press the stopwatch, and I just put it face down next to me so I know how long I've been doing it. Because every cycle of awareness, focus, awareness, how am I feeling? Oh, I was thinking, oh, I really want to think about that later. Okay, put it in the mental Tupperware bowl and stick it here. Tell it I'll be back later. Back to the feeling. And when you do that for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, like I'm doing meditation for 2 hours a day now. But I didn't get there immediately. I had to start with 10, and then I went to 15, and then just worked its way up. And you've heard of neuroplasticity. This is the work. You want to do work that is efficiently moving you towards your goal, which is how do you want to feel? how you want to feel is largely determined by the nerves that are communicating information about how I feel up to my thinker, but it's communicating from all your chakras and through your breath and through your muscle tension and through your thoughts and your habits. So I'll end there. Stay tuned for more. Feel free to watch any of the others. Send me a note. And if you would like some, private practice with this or help with this, because sometimes it really does help to have somebody bringing their awareness to your nervous system, because they can catch your subtle deviations that keep you stuck in your loops. It can catch those before you do, because you have built those in and made them subconscious, which means you don't see them when they come online. You go to sleep, just like you do at night. When you go to sleep, you don't really know when that happens. You're like, I closed my eyes, I was like lying there relaxing, and then tomorrow, right? You don't know when you go to sleep. So the benefit of having a coach with this, and I have them, I love them. I love my life when I'm supported by coaches that help me go to sleep less and develop systems that allow me to feel better. Just trying to keep it first principles, feel better. All right, y'all.